Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, in Europe, one of the most famous accounts we have of the archetypal knight who slays a dragon story comes from the 3rd century A.D., centered around a courageous Christian saint from the Middle East. Now, this man would actually become the patron saint of the English people, and he's celebrated as a martyr of the early church, though much of his life is shrouded in legend. His most famous deed, of course, was the legendary slaying of a dragon and the rescue of a princess. He is St. George, Roman soldier and Christian martyr. Now, although the question of his dragon slaying is at least debatable, and by the way, you can check out another Moment in History episode we did on dragons for my take on that topic, what's not debatable is George's existence and his likely martyrdom in the beginning of the 4th century as well. Now, George was a Roman soldier, as we said, who lived during the 3rd century A.D. Now, that was a time when the Roman Empire was declining heavily and actually on the verge of collapse. The date of his birth is unknown to us. George was a devout Christian, and the case can be made that he was really kind of the first archetype for what would later become the pious Christian knight of the Middle Ages. Men who possessed virtuous morality and tenacious courage, along with a chivalric protection for women and for those who were in need. He was in many ways the very first knight in shining armor in the history of Christendom. Now, the difference between George and the knights of Christian medieval Europe, of course, is that George was a lone Christian during a time of overwhelming paganism. Sure enough, tradition has it that St. George was among the thousands of Christians who were murdered by the vile Roman Emperor Diocletian, which was really the last of the great persecutions before the Christian takeover of the empire in the late 4th century A.D. But before all of this happened, St. George's most iconic moment took place when, according to the legends, he did battle with a dragon and conquered it, rescuing the princess of the region from certain doom. Now, George's legend has been known since the early Middle Ages, with his story gaining quite a bit of popularity during the Crusades. He was then recognized in the later Middle Ages as the patron saint of England, as we mentioned earlier, along with actually several other European regions, including Portugal and various principalities in Italy. Now, again, if you watch our episode on dragons, you can probably guess my take on the historicity of George's famous battle. Regardless of the specifics of his draconic fight, his legend was foundational for the Christian experience in medieval Europe and beyond. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.